I was traveling alone for a work conference in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. If you've never been to Eureka Springs, let me paint a picture. It's a small Victorian town nestled in the Ozark Mountains. The buildings are old, some over 150 years old, and the entire town sits on a foundation of limestone caves. Locals will tell you with absolute seriousness that it's one of the most haunted towns in the entire country. My name is Derek, and I didn't care about any of that. I just needed a place to sleep. The hotel I booked was called the Cresthaven Inn, a 3-story Victorian building with dark wood paneling, antique fixtures, and long hallways that seemed to stretch longer than the building should have allowed. The kind of place that looked charming in photos and deeply unsettling in person. I checked in late, around 11 p.m. after my flight was delayed. The woman at the front desk was older, maybe in her 70s, with the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She handed me the key, an actual metal key, not a card, and told me it was on the 3rd floor, room 31. "You're our only guest tonight on that floor," she said. I didn't think anything of it. I took the elevator up, walked down the hallway, and found my room easily enough. But as I passed the last door at the end of the hall, the one without a number, just a smooth wooden panel where a number should have been, I felt something. I will describe it as a pressure behind my eyes, like the air near that door was somehow heavier than the rest of the hallway. I stood there for a moment, staring at it, and then shook my head and went to my room. I was tired. I needed sleep. I let it go. I fell asleep quickly, but at exactly 2:17 a.m., I know this time because I checked my phone, not because of a nightmare, I woke up because of a smell, a sharp metallic odor, like old pennies soaked in water, filling my entire room. I sat up in bed, and that's when he heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, coming from the direction of the unnumbered door. I lay completely still, listening. The footsteps came closer. Then they stopped right outside his door. The silence that followed was the kind that presses against your ears. Then, slowly, the door handle moved. I watched it turn, stop, turn again, then stop. I didn't move for what felt like 20 minutes. When I finally got up and looked through the peephole, the hallway was empty. But there was something on the floor directly outside my door, a small, wet handprint, child-sized. The carpet around it was damp like something dripping. I didn't sleep again that night. In the morning, I went to the front desk and asked the same elderly woman about the unnumbered door. She looked at me for a long moment before she answered. "That room has been sealed for 40 years, she said. "There was an incident." I asked her what kind of incident. She looked down at the desk. A little girl. She was staying with her parents. She walked out of her room in the middle of the night and was never seen again. They found her handprints on the doors of every room on the 3rd floor. She paused. "We sealed the room after that. But sometimes," she trailed off. "Sometimes the handprints come back," she said quietly, "especially on wet nights." I checked out immediately and drove 3 hours without stopping. I never asked about what happened to that little girl again, because some answers are worse than the question. My name is James Whitfield, and I am 41-year-old, a sales manager from Atlanta, Georgia. I travels for work constantly, maybe 200 nights a year in hotels across the country. I thought I had seen everything. Strange noises, eccentric guests, rooms with broken locks, and some questionable stains. I booked a hotel in the French Quarter, a tall, narrow building that had been converted from what was originally an early 20th century textile warehouse. The lobby was impressive, all exposed brick and wrought iron and high ceilings hung with chandeliers that looked original to the building. The kind of hotel that has character, he told me. The kind of character I would later wish had belonged to someone else. I checked in on a Tuesday evening. My room was on the 6th floor. I was told at check-in that there were 7 floors, the 7th being a top-floor bar and lounge, a selling point of the hotel. I made a mental note to visit it before the night was over. I spent a few hours at the conference, came back around 9 p.m., and decided to check out the rooftop lounge. I got into the elevator and pressed 7. The button lit up. The elevator hummed and moved upward. That was all normal. What was not normal was what the doors opened onto. Not a bar, not a lounge, not a rooftop terrace with string lights and cocktails. The doors opened onto a long hallway, dimly lit by old sconces that cast a sickly yellow glow. The wallpaper was dark, a repeating pattern I couldn't quite make out, and the carpet was deep burgundy, almost black. The air had a quality to it, a stillness and coldness that hit me immediately, even though the rest of the hotel had been warm. I looked at the elevator panel. I had pressed 7. The button was still lit. I assumed the hotel had simply not finished converting the top floor and that I'd accidentally ended up in an unrenovated area. I stepped out into the hallway looking for a staircase that might take me to the actual rooftop bar. The hallway extended far to my left and far to my right, further, it seemed, than the building should have been wide. I chose left and started walking. The doors I passed were all numbered: 701, 703, 705. Old numbers stamped in brass that had gone green. I noticed that none of the rooms had the modern key cards that the rest of the hotel used. They all had old-fashioned key slots. And then I heard something behind one of the doors. Room 712. A voice, low and monotone, like someone reading from a list. I stopped and listened. I couldn't make out words, just a cadence, steady, unbroken. It sounded like a prayer or a count. Then it stopped. The door handle began to turn from the inside. I moved before I even thought about it, pure instinct, and I walked fast back down the hallway toward the elevator. I jabbed the button, got in the moment the doors opened, and pressed 6, which was my floor. When the door opened again, I was on the 6th floor. Warm, normally lit, normal carpet, modern key cards, everything as it should have been. I stood there for a long moment in the hallway, breathing hard. I went to the front desk and told them exactly what had happened. The night clerk, a young woman barely in her 20s, listened with an expression that shifted from polite attention to something else. "Sir," she said carefully, "this hotel doesn't have any guest rooms on the 7th floor." I told her I had been there. I had seen the doors. I had heard someone inside room 712. I asked her what was wrong. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she turned to her computer screen away from me and spoke very quietly. Room 712 was the room they found them in when they converted the building. 7 of them, all in the same room. They'd been there for... She stopped. "We don't talk about it." I asked, "Found how?" She didn't answer. I went upstairs, packed my bag, and checked out at 10 p.m. I stayed the rest of the week at a chain hotel by the airport where everything was modern and fluorescent and aggressively ordinary. I never felt more grateful for a bad mattress and a humming ice machine in my life. When I got home, I found one news clipping from 1943. 7 workers had been found dead in a locked storage room on the top floor of the building. The cause was listed as unknown. The building sat vacant for over 30 years after that before it was converted into a hotel. I never went back again, and since then, I have stopped going out when it is 10 p.m. at night. And my 2 friends, Cassie and Morgan, rented a cabin in Big Bear Lake for a long weekend in January. We found it on one of those vacation rental apps. The listing showed a rustic, beautiful little cabin surrounded by pine trees and snow, with a fireplace and a wraparound porch that looked out over the frozen lake. The reviews were mostly good, 4 stars. 1 or 2 mentioned that the Wi-Fi was unreliable, nothing alarming. We arrived on a Friday afternoon. The drive up the mountain had been slow because of ice on the roads, and by the time we reached the cabin, the sun was already going down. The key was in a lockbox by the front door, exactly as promised. Inside, the cabin was exactly what the photos showed. Wooden walls, a stone fireplace, 2 bedrooms, and a small loft. Cozy, quiet, isolated. That first night was completely normal. We made dinner, watched a movie on a laptop, and went to bed around midnight. I took the loft. The other two shared the larger bedroom below. I woke up at 3 a.m. to a sound I couldn't immediately identify, a slow creaking from somewhere in the cabin. I assumed it was the structure settling in the cold, old wood contracting, the way old buildings do. I tried to go back to sleep, but the creaking didn't stop. It got slower, like footsteps on a staircase. Then I heard breathing, not from either of the bedrooms. Instead, the breathing was coming from inside the loft, close to me. I lay completely rigid in the darkness, not daring to move. The breathing was low, only a few feet away. I reached for my phone to use as a flashlight and nearly dropped it because my hand was shaking so badly. I turned on the light. The loft was empty. I told myself it was my own breathing I'd heard, echoing off the angled ceiling. I told myself a dozen reasonable things and almost believed them. But then I looked at the floor of the loft. There were marks in the dust near the far wall, heel-to-toe drag marks, like someone pacing back and forth. The dust on the loft hadn't been disturbed when we arrived. I remembered thinking it looked like nobody had been up there in a while. But now there were those marks, fresh, leading to the wall and back, over and over. I did not sleep again. In the morning, I told the others. Cassie was skeptical, Morgan was uncomfortable, and they all agreed to spend the day outside and not think about it. We hiked, they laughed. It helped. That night, I refused to sleep in the loft. I took the couch in the living room and left every light in the cabin on. The other two were asleep by midnight. At 2 a.m., I heard the front door open. Not the sound of the handle turning, just the door, which I was certain I had locked, swinging open with a long, low groan of hinges. Cold air rolled into the room. I sat up on the couch, staring at the open doorway. There was nothing there. The porch beyond was dark and empty. Snow on the railing, undisturbed. No footprints in the fresh powder at the base of the porch steps. Nothing had walked through that door, and yet it was standing wide open. I got up and closed it, locked it, double-checked the deadbolt. I stood there in the silence for several minutes, heart pounding. That's when I realized the deadbolt had been engaged the whole time. The door had been locked from the inside, and it had still opened. I woke the others up immediately. We left before sunrise and did not go back for our things that we left there. Later, I reached out to the property rental company and asked about the cabin's history. They told me it had previously been a long-term rental occupied by a single man for nearly 6 years. They told me he had moved out suddenly. They didn't say why. I found the reason myself, much later, in a local news archive. The man hadn't moved out. He had been found dead inside the cabin. The report listed the cause of death as undetermined. There was no sign of a break-in. The door had been locked from the inside. Just like the night I heard him breathing. We never went to that cabin again.